Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is pre-match build-up showtime as Liverpool get ready to play yet another football match. It feels like they are just coming relentlessly at us at the moment because in a way they are. This is less than 72 hours since we finished playing and losing against Atalanta on Wednesday night, and Liverpool will be back in Premier League action at the Amex Stadium against Brighton at 12:30 on a Saturday afternoon. And it's fair to say no one involved, certainly no one involved in the Liverpool camp, is particularly happy about this. We as fans know that as much as we want to see football all the time, and at first when we looked at the schedule for this season, you were looking at it and it was constant Premier League, Champions League, Premier League, Champions League, games every 3 days. And at first you're thinking, well, at least we've got something to do. We've got something to watch and enjoy. But it's difficult to watch and enjoy it when the team that Liverpool are putting out is an absolute shell of what it can be. And that is, by and large, or almost entirely, down to the fact that the fixture list is, at the moment, crippling the players. And as Jurgen has already said, and I'm sure we've all seen the rant that Sky Sports very quickly cut from their broadcast of him basically saying that broadcasters do not care, and that is evident in the way this game has been scheduled at the frankly ridiculous time of 12:30 on Saturday. I've never been a fan of early kickoffs. I think evening games suit Liverpool better. They seem to be better, especially when you've got crowds in as well. Everyone's much more up for it in the stands, and the players look more up for it as well. I think they definitely look sluggish in these early games, and especially when you've got such a short turnaround with the injury problems you've already got. Listen, if Liverpool had a full squad, this wouldn't be so much of a problem. I think we could almost rotate to the point where we could put out two very decent starting 11s. But with the position we're in now, that's just not an option for Liverpool. And to be honest, I think we're actually struggling to cobble together a single starting 11 for this match with the players that are left over and aren't currently sat on the treatment table. So, I mean, I'm not optimistic. I know I normally am optimistic going into games, and anyone who's watched this channel for a while will know that I normally bounce into these videos talking about how much I'm looking forward to watching Liverpool play and hopefully picking up another 3 points on their way to a potential Premier League title. But at the moment, looking ahead to this game, I might even take a point, and that's pushing it really, really far, because normally I will always want a win from any single game, but at the moment I just don't want Liverpool going out and losing a game and taking that knock to our morale. I just want us to go there, not pick up any injuries as well, and get a semi-decent result that doesn't impact us too badly going forward into the rest of the season. Because of course the other interesting thing that's happening this weekend is Spurs are playing Arsenal, and Spurs are effectively Liverpool's title rivals at the moment. I know we of course will always have one eye on Manchester City, and they play straight after us, also on BT Sport. I believe both games, Liverpool and the Man City game, are on there if you're watching in the UK, but they play in the 3 o'clock kickoff at home to Burnley. Can't really imagine much going on there, but given the form City are in at the moment, they are falling away at an alarming rate. Liverpool are 8 points clear of them, despite having plenty of problems of our own at the start of this season, even though maybe over the last few games the points total hasn't necessarily shown that. We've tended to get the job done regardless of the issues we're facing, but City are falling away while Spurs are absolutely flying. And maybe that is down to the fact they had a good run of fixtures and they're now going into a difficult period. They've just played Man City. They will be playing these constant Europa League games as well. And then in amongst all that, they've got Arsenal this weekend, Chelsea the weekend after, and then Crystal Palace away, and then us. I'm pretty sure they play us after that run. So it's no plain sailing for them. But of course, we will definitely have one eye on that Spurs game as well. And what would be really frustrating is if Spurs do drop points there, if they do take a setback and Liverpool aren't able to capitalise on it because we've already got a poor result at the Amex. I think what would be brilliant is for a depleted Liverpool side that no one really expects anything of now, to go to the Amex, get all 3 points and pile the pressure on Spurs going into that North London derby on Sunday evening. But before we even think about anyone else, we've got to think about Liverpool and the side that Liverpool are going to put out and the players that Liverpool actually have available at their disposal. Jurgen Klopp was pretty tight-lipped about it in his press conference today, and that's not to say that he was being coy, that he was trying to keep secrets from people, and more to do with the fact that I don't think he knows. He basically said, I'm not medical staff. I don't know what players are and aren't going to be available for tomorrow. It's not until he said he doesn't know the lineup and that it will be tomorrow morning when he finds out which players are and aren't available. And that's going to be going all the way through the season. And you can tell that it annoys him because this isn't what he likes to do as a manager. He wants to have all those players. He wants to be working with them week in, week out, training them, coaching them, going through drills, updating the tactics essentially, and constantly working through new routines and stuff like that. Whereas now, his job is basically just to get the lads to run laps, do a few drills, and not die and not go down injured and add to the problems that we've already got. And that is not what Jurgen Klopp enjoys doing. And he probably doesn't like going into big matches where we need to get all 3 points, not knowing who his team's going to be, because he doesn't know who is and isn't going to be on the treatment table on Saturday morning. What he did say is that Jordan Henderson will face a late fitness test. We've seen positive signs from him making a comeback from the little injury that he sustained on international duty, as seems to be the case with pretty much any injury that affects Liverpool these days. But he was in training and in individual sessions as well, so it's been great to see him back on the training ground. And judging from the few social media posts he's been throwing out and stuff like that, where he says it's good to be back and everything like that, and the fact that it was a short layoff as well, so hopefully the recovery time from once he starts full team training is virtually non-existent, I'd err on the side of saying that he probably does start on Saturday. But as I said, even Jurgen Klopp doesn't know, so I'm not putting any money down on it, and you shouldn't either. But the signs look positive for Jordan Henderson, certainly more positive than they do for other players such as Thiago Alcantara, who's basically been ruled out of this match. I know this was kind of given as a game where Liverpool were hopeful that he would be back for. When over the last couple of weeks, it's been all we might see him for Brighton. We're hoping he's back for Brighton. He's not, unfortunately, and goodness only knows when he is going to be back. Another one where Jurgen Klopp says he doesn't know how long it's going to take. He just gets the word from the medical department every day that, nope, too early, he's not playing. And eventually at some point he'll get back on the training pitch and then we can consider it. But the fact we haven't seen him in full team training or anything even approaching that recently suggests that we won't see him tomorrow, and we might not see him for Ajax on Tuesday evening either. So no Thiago. Jurgen did say a lot of players are going to be assessed going into the game, and it is on a day-by-day basis. So players like Oxlade-Chamberlain are recovering well, progressing well. Hopefully we see them soon, because we do need a bit of backup to bolster the midfield. We haven't heard anything about the injury that Naby Keita sustained in the win against Leicester on Sunday evening. Trent Alexander-Arnold still, the fact we haven't heard anything suggests he's vaguely on track for that kind of month-long layoff, which means maybe in a couple of weeks, perhaps a little bit sooner than that, but certainly not for this game. So by and large, it's the players who finished the game against Leicester, so everyone who started and was available other than Naby Keita, who of course sustained an injury during the game, who will be available for this game, and anyone else who's been on the fringes or injured will face a late test. They might play, they might not. As I said, even the manager doesn't know. It's the medical staff only, and even they are taking it on a pretty much day-by-day basis. But as for how I think Liverpool are actually going to line up for this game, at a guess, I think you can put decent money on Alisson Becker starting a goal. I think in front of him, barring any late fitness issues, and with these two, that's always a possibility, it's probably going to be Fabinho and Joel Matip as the centre-half pairing. I think Robertson will be your left back, and right back, should Henderson play? And first of all, I'm going to go on the proviso that he does, because like I said, it's been looking positive over the last couple of days. If Henderson does play, then I think James Milner bumps back from the midfield role into the right back role for this game, which means it's actually the same back five, if you include Alisson as well, that played very, very well against Leicester City. So while the back line didn't look great against Atalanta and at times did get exposed quite badly, not just with the goals that they scored, it was an inexperienced back line. It included Tsimikas, who's barely played any games and has yet to fully get used to the system. Nico Williams, who's still young and getting used to the team. Same goes for Reece Williams as well. Joel Matip was the only sort of senior member of the Liverpool team starting in that back line in terms of players that are both a bit older and have a bit more experience in the team. Whereas this lineup, as we've seen against Leicester, is a very, very solid defence. So if Liverpool start with that, I'm a little bit more optimistic, because that gives us a very solid base to build from. And we saw that against Leicester, that we had that security at the back, and it allowed the attackers and the midfield as well a little bit more freedom. Players like Curtis Jones could bomb on, Keita could bomb on. They could join in with the attack and rely on the fact that Gini Wijnaldum could screen the defence. And if that didn't work, then there were enough world-class players behind him who would sort everything out and prevent any problems. So if that's the back line, then my mood is instantly lifted on Saturday morning. However, if Jordan Henderson isn't available, I think Nico Williams comes in at right back, and that's where things could get difficult, because as much as I don't think Nico's rubbish, I know he's not as good as Trent. I don't want to slaughter the kid too much, because as I said, he's young, he's developing, he's going to make mistakes, but as a result, he will probably get targeted, and the same goes for James Milner as well, because he's not a right back and he's a little bit older and he hasn't quite got the pace that maybe Trent or Robbo have, and Brighton might look to exploit that. But by and large, Milner's positional sense and professionalism and attention to detail gets him out of those situations pretty easily. But I think if Henderson isn't available, then Milner has to come into the midfield. Nico comes at right back, and then you've got a few issues there. But let's go back to the nicer world, the nicer universe where Henderson's available. Milner plays right back. In the midfield, I think Henderson plays in the deepest role, pushing Gini Van Aldum a little bit further forward, although to be honest, I'm happy with them interchanging. Henderson is a brilliant number 6 and a brilliant number 8, and likewise for Gini Van Aldum, they both do both of those roles superbly, and you'll see interchanging anyway, regardless of which one technically starts in one position or the other. And then I think Curtis Jones completes the midfield, because that's the only 3 lads we've got. I mean, there's the potential for us to maybe do a 4-2-3-1 to get an extra attacker on the pitch and compensate for the fact that we just don't have that much room, if at all, to rotate in the midfield. But as you'll see when I say who I think is going to start, and also I think tactically for this game, away from home, while we're depleted, we should be going with the 4-3-3. So I think it is going to be Henderson and Gini alternating, doing most of the defensive work, and then Curtis Jones still working as a number 8. We've seen him progress in that role. He seems to suit it better now. He's getting used to what is demanded of a centre midfielder in Liverpool's system, but he'll still be the more attacking one, and I think that's what we go with for the midfield, unless Henderson's not available, in which case it's Milner, Gini and Curtis Jones, and then Nico Williams comes in at right back. But for now, Henderson, Gini, Jones, and then I think in front of them, Firmino continues up top. I think Salah comes back into the side after missing, well, obviously he played against Atalanta, but in terms of the Premier League, it's his first start since returning from his coronavirus layoff. And then I think Diogo Jota is going to complete the front 3. I think Sadio Mane, kid looks shattered. It was obvious against Atalanta. It was maybe a little bit evident against Leicester, although I think less so. He still played very well. He was still a very functional member of the front 3. And, at the end of the day, he's Sadio Mane. He can be as knackered as he likes. You can tell him he can't even use his right foot, and he'd still be a much better footballer than you and me. So the fact he's lost a little bit, like 10%, means that he's still going to be an absolute nightmare for most defenders. But I think under the circumstances, especially having also played in the game against Atalanta, give the kid a rest. Have Jota, have Firmino, have Salah as your front 3, and then listen, if you want to bring Sadio Mane off the bench, then God help Brighton and Hove Albion, unless of course they're miles in front already and they've won the game 3-0, but hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood and all that, we don't even have to entertain that scenario. So I think we go with that front 3. Like I said, you could have a 4-2-3-1 and bring Mane back in, and that gives you the room for rotation in the midfield. Even if we were doing 4-2-3-1, we could do it with someone like Naby Keita if he was available. We've seen him deployed in that left mid role in that system before, and the same goes for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, but those lads aren't available. Xherdan Shaqiri also doesn't look like he's available, so I think Jurgen's probably going to go with a 3 just because we haven't quite got the options there, as well as anywhere else on the pitch at the moment. So I think that is how Liverpool are going to line up. So as for Brighton then, they got a very, very impressive result last Saturday against Aston Villa, an Aston Villa side that started the season very well, as we all know. You don't need to tell Liverpool fans about that, but have dropped away a little bit. They still seem like a reasonable threat. They were still in and around the top of the Premier League table, and I think maybe if they'd won their game in hand and won that game against Brighton as well, they maybe would have even leapfrogged Liverpool in the standings. So they're no mugs, clearly, and it was seen as a little bit of a shock at the time because Brighton maybe haven't quite got going this season. The signs are definitely there that they're a great footballing team, but you can maybe look back to their 3-2 loss against Man United as an almost microcosmic depiction of their season, where they were the better side, probably deserved to win it in the end, and going into stoppage time at 2-2, they were probably feeling like they were hard done by there, and then they go on to lose the game because certain things just don't quite seem to go their way at pivotal points in the game. So I think Brighton are going to cause us problems. I think what's really interesting is how they set up, because in theory they're not the team that we want to play now, because they are quite expansive. They love to play with the ball, they love to play possession football, and they probably will at various points try and take the game to Liverpool. And you think in our current state, you want to come up against a team that's a bit like, no disrespect to them of course, because everyone has their tactics and if it works, it works, but a team like Burnley, who aren't expecting to have much of the ball, who aren't expecting to have be given the impetus to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And of course, with the situation Liverpool are in, they maybe opponents are almost caught in two minds as to whether to go at them because they feel like Liverpool are there for the taking, as they kind of are tomorrow because of the fitness situation and the injury situation. They're both things that are sort of separate but the same thing. The players that are going to be on the pitch are shattered, and there are so many players that aren't available to even get on the pitch in the first place. So Brighton might come at Liverpool there, but also at the same time, do not still be a little bit careful and try to hit them on the counter-attack and take advantage of them that way. I think Atalanta showed that you can not run a game against Liverpool, but you can certainly nullify them at the moment. You can destroy everything that they want to do and start to find your own way into the game. They didn't necessarily dominate the ball, but simultaneously they didn't sit back as maybe I think we expected them to sit deep and counter-attack, whereas they actually played a bit more possession football. And I think Brighton might be in a similar situation, and in a way, I kind of hope they do that, because looking at their game against Aston Villa, I know they won the match and yes, they were impressive and they created more chances that they didn't put away in that game, but they gave some away as well. And you look at some of the opportunities Aston Villa had. If you gave those opportunities to Mo Salah or Diogo Jota, you'd expect them to bury them 99 times out of 100. So it really, really depends on how Brighton want to approach this game. And I think even they will be caught in two minds throughout the match. And that's what makes it so difficult to call, because no one really knows what kind of game it's going to be tomorrow, because it's hard to say what Liverpool's going to show up, partially because, as Jurgen said, he doesn't know what team is even going to play in the match. Like I said, if Henderson's back and Milner can go in that back line, then suddenly I feel a lot more safe and secure, especially because I know there are leaders on the pitch there. James Milner, the vice-captain, Jordan Henderson, the captain, Gini van Aldum, a member of the senior players committee, all those lads who pride themselves not just on their own performances, but being able to force the best out of everyone else wearing a red shirt on the day. So if that happens, I've got confidence. But if not, then I think Brighton will definitely, they'll look at players like Nico Williams in the starting 11 and see that as a real opportunity to get down that side, to cause problems, to overwhelm Liverpool in those spaces. But as I said, on the flip side, when you've got Mo Salah and Diogo Jota running at you, that can cause serious problems, because of course Brighton are playing this back 3/5 at the moment. Their system may change, of course, with Tariq Lamptey being suspended. That is definitely a bonus for Liverpool, because he's probably been one of, if not their best player so far this season, and he's so crucial to their system. With they play a back 3 instead of a back a back 5 instead of a back 4, if you will, like Liverpool do. But they still have those flying fullbacks that bomb forward, and in that way they're quite similar. But without Lamptey, that is going to impair them a bit. So possibly they go to a back 4, and in that case, I'm not as optimistic. But if they go for the back 5 still, we've seen that, listen, if they put loads of men behind the ball, then it becomes a little bit difficult. But if they smell blood and they start bombing on and they try and get out Liverpool, then suddenly it's a high line back 3. And anyone who's been watching Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool for the last few years will know that that is the last thing you should ever do against our front 3. You look back at so many games thinking about like the 5-2 against Roma, or even ones as recent as the 3-0 against Leicester. When teams play a back 3, you've got to get the line absolutely right, because if you make any mistakes, Liverpool will punish you, and punish you so severely. The Atalanta 5-0 being another example of where they just got it completely wrong as to where they should play their line, and Liverpool ripped them to shreds on the counter-attack. So in a way, the fact that this game is away from home might actually work in Liverpool's favour, because of course at home Brighton would feel more obliged to defend a little bit. But as I said, I think tomorrow we're going to see them come at us, we're going to see them try and cause us problems, and they will cause us problems as well. They will make it a difficult game, and as I said at the top of the video, I'm not hugely optimistic, but after talking through it a little bit, I don't know how you guys feel watching it, but having just, it's almost like therapy in a way to talk about it, I feel a bit more optimistic now. I've kind of reminded myself that this is still Liverpool. These players are still handpicked by Jurgen Klopp from across the globe, because he thinks that they are good enough to go out in that red shirt and get a result for Liverpool Football Club. So listen, it'll be hard. It won't be easy by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's going to be 3-0 or 4-0. I think it will be a hard-fought match either way, whoever comes away with a decent result out of it. But despite what I said at the top of the video, I still feel like we might just sneak it. We do have that quality that when things aren't going our way, and when it gets really, really difficult, Liverpool just dig it out of the fire every time. So that's what I think is going to happen. Let me know what you think is going to happen down in those comments below. Apart from that, that is all for today's video. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, you know what to do. Hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. And I'll be back tomorrow afternoon after we've hopefully, fingers crossed, beaten Brighton. Until then, bye for now.